Welcome to this tutorial on building a simple farming game in Java. In this video, we'll walk you through the entire process step by step. By the end, you'll have a fully functional farming game that you can expand on. Let's get started. First, let's set up our project structure. Open your IDE and create a new Java project named Simple Farming Game. Within this project, create a package called tom.farminggame. Next, we need to create our main class, which is the entry point of our game. Let's name the class FarmGame. In this class, we will have our main method. Now, let's add a simple game menu system. We'll create a method called showMenu that will display options for the player. 1. Plant crops. 2. Harvest crops. 3. Exit. Next, let's call this showMenu method from the main method. We also need to add a scanner to read user input. To process the user's input, let's add a method called processChoice in choice. This method will handle the player's actions. We also need to modify our main method to repeatedly show the menu and process user choices until they choose to exit. Next, let's implement the plantCrops method. This method will allow the player to plant crops. For simplicity, we'll just print a message for now. Now, let's implement the harvestCrops method. This will simulate harvesting the crops by printing another message. Great! We now have a basic structure for our farming game. At this point, the game can plant and harvest crops. However, let's improve it further by adding some game states. We should create a class to represent our farm. Let's call it Farm. This class will hold information about the crops and their state. Next, we'll modify our FarmGame class to use the Farm class. Create an instance of Farm as a member variable in FarmGame. Update the plantCrops method to prompt the user for the type of crop they want to plant. Similarly, update the harvestCrops method to call the farm's harvest method. Now we have a working farm where the player can plant and harvest crops using their names. Next up, we will add more features to our game, such as keeping track of the number of planted crops. Let's add a field in the Farm class to keep track of how many crops are planted. Update the plantCrop method to increment the number of crops planted each time a crop is planted. Let's also create a method called getCropCount that returns the number of crops planted. Now we can enhance the user experience by showing the number of crops planted every time the user decides to plant crops. Let's update our plantCrops method again. Our game is coming together nicely. Now, let's add a simple user interface to provide feedback. We can use text-based input and output for simplicity. As an improvement, we can also add the ability to check the crops that have been planted. Let's add a method in the Farm class to show the list of crops. Now, we need to update our menu to include this new functionality. In our showMenu method, we need an option to check planted crops. Next, we need to add processing for this new option in the processChoice method. Let's test the game now. Compile and run the application. You should now be able to plant crops, harvest them, and check how many crops you've planted. Congratulations, you've created a simple farming game in Java. This game provides a basic structure that you can expand. You can add more features like crop growth time, a marketplace, or even upgrading the farm. Thank you for watching this tutorial. If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'll see you next time for more Java programming tutorials.